Hi besties! So the fairy just told me that her friends are coming over, so today, Mook and I are going to build a pink-only base in 99 nights in the forest, since apparently, fairies are very picky guests and they only stay in places that match their aura. So let's see if they will like pink vibes later. Let's go! So last night, while I was gathering wood, the forest suddenly turned quiet. Then this tiny fairy popped out of a flower and said, "The Blossom Fairies will arrive in 99 nights. Prepare a pink sanctuary or chaos will bloom." So apparently, these Blossom Fairies control the spring season, and if they don't like their temporary home, the whole forest might turn into permanent winter. Basically, if I don't build this pink base, goodbye warm weather, hello Elsa's Ice Palace 24/7. Okay, so what we need to make sure right now is not get cursed for a bad interior design by these picky fairies. Apparently, fairies take colors very seriously. If their home isn't color coordinated with their magic, they say the energy becomes chaotic and crunchy. Crunchy magic? I don't know what that means, but it sounds dangerous. I heard a rumor, one that kept echoing through the forest. They say that once every 100 nights, a group of rare fairies returns to this land, not to cause mischief, not to bless crops, but to rest, to recharge, and to remember a home they once lost before the spring season arrives. Somewhere deep in these woods, there used to be a fairy sanctuary hidden under layers of rose quartz dust. The fairies who lived there were known for their gentle nature. They weren't fighters, they weren't tricksters. They were simply wanderers, caretakers of the softest parts of nature. But one night, a storm came that the forest still refuses to talk about. Trees bent, rivers dried up, and the sanctuary shattered like broken glass. The fairies disappeared. Only that one fairy left who sells berries and chilies inside this forest. No one knew where they went, only that they promised to return one day when the forest healed. That day might be soon, because travelers started hearing tiny chimes in the wind, soft glitter around mushroom patches, and faint pink glows near the treetops. Not enough to prove anything, but enough to make me wonder. Okay, before continuing our story, let me just get these wolves and cultists trying to stop me from entering that bank. Okay, great. I got an alpha pelt, and now let's just check this bank and get all the coins inside. Great, some bandage, and we got a kunai too. Anyway, going back to our story, there was one detail that kept repeating through the stories. The fairies from this sanctuary were rosewing fairies, a rare type whose magic is tied to warm shades of pink. It's said that pink protects them, pink comforts them, pink reminds them of home. If they really were coming back, a pink base wasn't just cute, it was meaningful, it was symbolic. It was the closest thing I could offer to their lost sanctuary. So I made a decision. No matter how long it took, no matter how dangerous the nights became, I would build them a home. Okay, and finally we got the alpha wolves, so let's now get the second kid and save her. When I started collecting materials, things got strange. Not scary, just unusual. As I chopped trees, petals fell from places where no flowers grew. As I go near the caves, I found veins of pale rose minerals glowing softly. When I ran across ponds, the water shimmered like someone sprinkled tiny pink sparks across the surface. It felt like the forest was responding, not fighting me, not warning me, just silently observing. At night, the wind carried faint, chime-like sounds. Not bells, not metal, something lighter, like wings brushing through the air. Anyway, there's a bear and an alpha wolf kept on chasing me. That's the most annoying thing inside this forest. Okay, so let me just continue exploring this forest and let's see if those rumors about the fairies are true when we go deep inside this forest later. Okay, there are so many wolves on those abandoned tents. Anyway, some travelers whisper that parts of the forest aren't really there. Paths that look familiar sometimes disappear at night, replaced by glowing pink trails that lead somewhere unknown. No one knows where these trails lead, but rumor says they are made by the fairies to guide their friends safely to the sanctuary. Occasionally, small pink petals fall from the trees for no reason. They aren't flowers, it's like the forest itself is scattering magic. Some say the petals are blessings, some say they mark the arrival of a fairy messenger. And a few bold explorers claim that if you follow the petals, you can hear whispers from the past. Okay, and now let's save the third kid from those bears before continuing our story. Okay, we're good. So there was a legend that a hidden pink crystal somewhere in the forest called the Blossom Heart. It glows faintly and pulses like a heartbeat. Anyone who finds it is said to feel a connection to the fairies as if they are being watched or even guided. Some say the forest chooses who can find it, and it always leads them to the perfect spot for the pink guest house. Rumors speak of a shadow that protects the fairies' sanctuary. It doesn't attack like monsters, but it moves silently, appearing only as a silhouette in the moonlight. Some explorers say they felt eyes following them, but when they turned around, nothing was there. The forest seems alive, and some say the shadow only appears when the fairies are near. Finally, I got myself a strong axe. This is great! Stories tell of fairies who lost their wings in the forest long ago. Tiny glowing fragments sometimes appear on the ground. If you step on them, they vanish immediately, but if you leave them untouched, they are said to reassemble somewhere else, hinting at a fairy returning. Some say these fragments are signs that the pink guest house is on the right path. Every year, the trees awaken from winter's gray embrace, flowers stretch toward the sunlight, and the air fills with warmth and color. No one knows why this happens so perfectly, like clockwork, but some say it isn't nature at all. It's the work of the Pink Blossom Fairies, and they say that the fairy inside this forest who sells chilies and berries belongs to that clan. And the rumor says, when winter is long or harsh, they grow restless. If their work is interrupted, spring can falter, flowers fail to bloom, rivers freeze too long, and the forest seems dull and silent. Some say the pink guest house that I will build later could attract them, and perhaps witness the return of their ancient magic. These fairies aren't just responsible for making spring beautiful, they're responsible for its survival. According to what little anyone has whispered long ago, a great frost threatened the world. Snow fell in endless waves, trees froze solid, and even the mountains seemed covered in gray despair. Okay, we need some logs before we can craft the hammer. Bro, that ram was so random. Okay, I think we're good now. Anyway, the Pink Blossom Fairies gathered. It wasn't just a casual reunion. They were the keepers of color, warmth, and life. Every petal, every new leaf, every dewdrop was part of their magic, and their wings, tinged with pink and gold, carried spells that could revive forests. But there was a problem. The frost wasn't natural. A shadow had crept into the world, a dark force that resented life and growth. It struck at the heart of the Springfairies' magic, stealing their energy and scattering their companions across the world. The rumor says that ever since then, the fairies have been careful. They appear only when the forest shows signs of imbalance, and they can vanish just as easily, leaving only faint traces of petals, pink sparkles, or mysterious glimmers of light. Some claim that if humans stumble upon their resting places too early, the fairies' magic can falter, and spring might come late or weak that year. Hey sis, what are you doing? Anyway, it's said that this is why their sanctuary is always hidden, guarded by strange shadows and shifting paths. Even the pink guest house, if built, would need to be just right, soft pink, warm and welcoming, so the fairies would trust it enough to approach. The most intriguing part of the rumor is the danger. Spring, as fragile as it is, can be interrupted, not only by frost, but by greed, neglect, or careless intruders. Some explorers claim that long ago a human discovered the fairies' hidden grove, Curious, they tried to take a flower, a crystal, a feather, anything that could be proof of the fairy's existence. Okay, since Mook died, let's continue our story later and try saving her first. Okay, and we're good. So the spring fairies fled. Spring that year was late. Rivers froze for longer than usual. Trees shed petals too early. The forest itself seemed to mourn their absence. Since then, the fairies have become more careful. They watch from a distance. They test places before fully revealing themselves. And only the most patient, respectful, and prepared humans, those who build, care, and honor the forest, might glimpse their presence. This is why the rumor of the pink guest house is so important. It isn't just a home. It is a potential bridge between our world and theirs, a signal that the forest is being cared for, a place where spring can safely bloom without fear of interruption. And now let's start building our pink-only base in honor of the Pink Blossom Fairies. And finally, after a lot of building, decorating, and refusing any item that isn't pink, our pink-only house guest is finally complete. This is a magical sanctuary for the fairies, honestly. This place is cuter than my real house. So we have our beautiful living room right here, which screams pink vibes. I love this living room so much, and I would stay here all day with my besties. Then, of course, we have our own movie theater room for the fairies to enjoy. Then, of course, we have 2 massive bedrooms right here, which they will stay for a while. And that's it, besties. Our pink-only base is now ready for our guests, and I hope the fairies' friends will like it, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell if you want the fairies to live in our pink-only house. Bye, besties!